Hey everybody, Mike Edwards here. This is Empowered Until Further Notice. It's the podcast, video cast, whatever kind of cast you want it to be. That's all about ideas and different perspectives. And what if we just empower them instead of voting them out right from the beginning? So I'm very happy to be here with my friend Loree. Loree, welcome.
Thank you, Mike. I'm happy to be here too.
Awesome. So why don't you just jump right in and go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Loree Draube, and I'm an executive coach and leadership consultant, and I support teams and leaders in the work that they do in the world. So I am also, as of this summer, an actress, which I had never thought I'd ever do. But I wrote a one-woman show about my experiences in the Navy as one of the first women to fly in combat aviation. So it was really fun. I had a great time performing and meeting other artists and living in Edinburgh, Scotland for a month, which was super cool. So I am back in the United States and just really excited to be back home, and really happy to be here today. So happy to start getting into it because we've got a good topic today.
Yeah, we have a great topic. It's one of my favorites. And when I asked Loree what she wanted to talk about, she came back with fear. And I think of some of the things you've done in your lifetime, not the least of which is the actress gig over in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Right? Because when it comes to fear, I make up you had to push through a lot of boundaries to be a solo person up on that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about fear for a minute. Like, what is fear to you?
Yeah. I've heard some really interesting acronyms using fear. And one of my favorites is future events aren't real. And that one has really resonated with me because that really is true. We get afraid about things that haven't happened yet. Now, I'm not talking about physical fear, like physical danger kind of fear,
right.
Which I think is that is to be respected. Mm-hmm. So, although there are plenty of people who are extreme sports fanatics, and they do crazy things, and they manage through the physical fear as well. But I'm really talking more about the mental fear and the challenges that we have about imagining how our life is going to be and defaulting to the worst case scenario, which is a very natural thing for us to do. It's actually biologically programmed in us to ensure the survival of our species.
Yes.
But when you think about it, there are a lot of things that are not going to physically harm us if we do them, and yet they're really scary. And so it's funny you mentioned doing the show that I did this summer. I think that's a great example. My first performance, I definitely felt that physical fear of, having to get up on the stage in front of people who have paid to see me do this. And I was nervous about remembering my lines, making sure I was going to deliver them well, all those things. And that was physically manifesting itself. My heart was racing. I was nervous. I was just, it's definitely scary. But the funny thing was that after about, I'd say the third or fourth performance, and I did 23 of them over the month. I know, it's nuts. But the great thing was that by the third or fourth time, that heart rate was a little slower at the beginning. I wasn't as nervous. I could tell my breathing was calmer. And by the definitely by the 23rd time, I felt excited. I won't say completely comfortable.
Right.
It was more excitement and looking forward to being able to go out there and do this show, and really tapping more into that, the reason why I was there in the first place. So it was just interesting to notice that evolution over the 23 performances of going from complete panic and fear to, I wouldn't say comfortable, but definitely much, much, much more comfortable with it.
Yeah, and I think there's something really important about fear. So I too, for a very long time, was a performer. In my case, a part of a marching band. And I can think of the shows now. We never did the same show 23 times.
Yeah, but right? You may have performed it a lot, right?
Yeah, but without an audience, right? In rehearsal and whatever. And yeah, the individual pieces, but it's, a marching show on a floor where you're moving in different directions and you got to work together with others, right? I can think of many times, despite having done it for over 30 years, where we'd be getting ready to go on the floor. We'd be just waiting our turn, and it's the heartbeat thing you described.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or I'm a pacer, right? That's what I'll do.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's something really important about that fear. And I agree with you. Let's take the physical fear out of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? But I think there's something important about that fear. I think there's information to be had.
Absolutely. It's like, what is, when I have felt that, when I have felt myself, getting the physical manifestations of fear, heart rate going up, sweat, just the tingling, however fear manifests itself physically. It's like, to me, it's a signal to get back in touch with what's going on. Like, what's causing this fear? What is causing this physical manifestation of fear? And is it life-threatening? Or is it a signal that you really, really care about something, or that this is really important, or is it like, what is it telling us? And so, and that's why I feel like I never got to the point of being able to go on stage and not having some nervousness, but I definitely was able to, I think, having had the repetition and going through it, and also just breathing, doing breathing exercises to calm yourself down, that helps a lot. But yeah, I think the repetition helps, and putting ourselves in challenging situations helps mitigate fear when something new comes up. So
yes. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think in situations like I've been in and you were in over the last couple months there, like, to me, I always thought, well, what am I going to do? Run? No, the show's about to start. Right?
Yeah.
And if we mess up, we mess up. Let's go do this.
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of that, I don't know if tyranny is the right word, but it's like that, the downsides of perfectionism, of thinking, oh, this has got to be absolutely perfect. And some things, yes, need to be absolutely perfect. You don't want to mess things up. But even just, trying to do our jobs, or, in this case, trying to do a marching band performance or a theatrical performance, it's, we're human beings and we're not robots yet. So, it's understandable. And I think it's even endearing, maybe, or it helps to connect to one another, that, we're not perfect. And when someone does do a performance and nails it, it makes you appreciate it even more, just the effort that goes into that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I can think of one time we got on the floor and we're doing our thing. And the drum major, the one that gives all the commands, he gave the command to march off. Now, thankfully, we're right at the end of the show. There was only a couple things to do, but he was supposed to get us to do an about face before he gave the command. So now we're facing the wrong way. And so what does the whole band do? Just carry on. Right? We marched off the floor backwards, per se, right? Out of order. But who cares? Like, we pushed through that.
Yeah.
Right? Things happen.
Yep. Yeah. And you make the best of it. So.
Yeah. Now let's take it to a business context, because I know you spend a lot of time working there. I do as well. And well, arguably, there's a lot of times we are performing, not you and I, but leaders are performing. I can think of so many times that it's fear itself. They don't push forward. Right? It paralyzes them.
Yeah, because I think maybe it gets back to this, perfectionism that we often try to hold ourselves to. That if I can't do it perfectly, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do next. So how can we accept and still love ourselves if we're not perfect? and understanding, that's not an excuse to then not try or prepare or do anything like that. But it's still, I think it speaks to the ability for us to, forgive ourselves for not being perfect, which is a ridiculous expectation to have in the first place.
Yes.
And, still love ourselves, even when things don't go exactly as we wanted them to.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing, is the forgiveness part.
Yeah.
Right. Because you said it earlier, fear, like, it's inner wiring, it's in our DNA.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
wired to run from, or to evaluate things and run from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, if it's a tiger coming out of the jungle, probably a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good part of our biology to have. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
but it's to be able to look and say, okay, that didn't work, or my fear got the better of me, and to forgive and to go back to it.
Yes, and especially to forgive ourselves, right? That can often be really hard to do if we're constantly striving to be better. When you're not better, how can you have that self-forgiveness and still keep going? Because I think many of us, you grow up with a perspective of, if you only tried harder, this would have gone better. Sometimes you try really hard and it still doesn't go the way you want it to. And then do you take that as a reflection of your self-worth, or do you look at it as I hope people would, and recognize things aren't always going to go the way we want them to? How can we instead make the best of a particular situation?
Mm-hmm. So how do you look to convert fear into movement and action?
Yeah.
And how do you convert it?
I notice it. I think that's probably been the biggest help for me, is just noticing when it's fear. When I'm getting worked up about something that hasn't happened yet, I try to catch that. I'm not always good at it. I almost am not always perfect. I'm not always good at it. But I feel like I've gotten better at recognizing when I'm feeling that physical manifestation of fear, heart rate going up and all that, I notice it better, or notice it more quickly, I should say. Mm-hmm. And then I do a reflection, like, what is it about this situation or this thought or this environment that's making me feel uncomfortable or making me afraid? Yeah. And I try to determine, okay, is that real? Like,
yeah.
When I worry about what I'm going to be doing next year, I worry in the sense that I'm starting to physically feel bad about it, then I try to recognize that. I try to notice it and then recognize it for what it's worth. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going out into the future, and that is not a real place, not yet. So I try to do things to bring myself back. So breathing is a huge thing. Doing breathing exercises just to be present in my body right now, and not let my brain take me for a ride off into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. The noticing part of it, big part of what I do too. And then looking to, how real is this? It's a noticing and realization, I guess you could say, is a big part of it, because nothing's real. Everything's made up.
Yeah.
That's what Mentor Rick would say. It's all
yes,
made up.
Absolutely. I love that. It's so fun and playful and full of opportunity. But to be fair, it's like, there's some things that feel really scary, and but again, like being present, like what you're talking about, and noticing that, and thinking about, well, what is real? Like what is real is really only what we have right in front of us, right? The here and now. Mike and I are talking on a podcast, and I'm sitting in Florida and you're sitting in Canada, and we're talking, right? This is real. This feels real. Yes. But like an hour from now, it's not real yet, but it will be, and who knows? I think I really find the pandemic so interesting from that perspective of this, incredible world-changing, life-changing set of circumstances that happened that, most people, except for maybe some scientists, didn't think, they weren't really counting on, none of us were counting on having to quarantine and do all these things for as long as we did. And yet it happened. And so, but if, like, who could have, again, other than some scientists, who could have predicted that? And yet it happened, and we went through that. And so I think it's hard to adequately prepare for everything for the future. And it would be, you know, I don't know, there's some good things I think about preparing for the future, you know, probably maybe saving some money or, you know,
Sure.
writing a will, things like that. Yeah, I think those are probably good practical things. But I think when we're constantly living in the future, then we're not really enjoying the present and the things that are happening here. And we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's actually bringing us back to my original point is who could have predicted a pandemic? And just the crazy way it's affected our lives the last couple of years. But it happened. So it's like, well, you know, that's why I try to be more present in my life and to live in the here and now. But, you know, it doesn't always go that way.
No, and I think the point you're making is really all we can do is respond to what happens around us.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to getting fixated on something that may or may not happen a year from now, 3 years from now, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I also think it's being intentional about the things that we're doing, recognizing that we don't know what the future holds. So really understanding what's most important to us and how we're living our lives and what matters to us the most. You know, basically, what are your values? What's important to you? And I think once we've done the work to really get in touch with who we are and what matters to us, and that's so individual, then I think it's easier to live a life that's more intentional and, you know, reflecting those values that we hold. And so without, you know, when we don't do that work, then I think life feels a little bit more random and sporadic.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the same kind of concept applies in the business world too, right? I see leaders get fixated on what might happen 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Or whatever time horizon. They're not paying attention to and leading from where they are now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, you know, that's a really good example because I can see, you know, having been in business for 20 years and in the Navy for 10 years before that, there is some value to having some plans, right? We can't just like wing it all the time. Well, maybe we could. I don't know. I don't think we've ever tried that as a society. So, but like even in the military, here's a great example. We used to always have a mishap plan. And so it was a folder that sat on the duty officer's desk at the squadron. And if an accident happened, the first thing the person on duty would do is pull that folder out, open it up, and just start going down the list. And that actually happened to me at a squadron. We lost a jet. Fortunately, both of the people who were in the jet ejected and they were safe. Good. But I got the call that it had happened, and I immediately just opened up the folder and started going down the list. And so, like, I feel like there's some. I don't know that. I think just in the world that we live in, I think it would be difficult to be completely spontaneous. But and I myself am such a planner, so like I can just feel myself physically being like, "What? I can't have a plan." So, but I do think there is value to being. I absolutely believe there's value to being more present on a more regular basis.
Yeah, and I think that prepared part, I think it's contextual.
Yeah.
Like in that circumstance, yes, you can have a checklist to make sure the right calls are made or whatever the steps were.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can't always have that.
No, and that's not going to be, you know, suitable for everything that might happen too. You know, a lot of times we just have to wing it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So when it comes to fear, how do you use it to your benefit?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Loree didn't know what question. So
oh God. Wow. I think the way to use it to your benefit is it's almost like it's almost a lens. Because when you are starting to feel fear, to me, that speaks to what's most important to you. And so I think the more afraid you are about something or at the prospect of something happening or not happening, that is an indicator to me of the importance of that thing in your life. And so I think that maybe that could be a way.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel the same way because I think of it, in terms of comfort zone. And we need
Yeah.
to spend time there because that's where we do our best work,
Yeah.
right? But I also want to be growing. I want to push outside that and do something that stretches me.
Yes.
And fear for me is that indicator that something's could happen here.
Yeah. Yeah. I always love that, thinking about weightlifting and how you build muscle. It literally only builds after you tear up muscle fibers, right? That's how muscles build, is you work them so hard that the tiny, tiny, tiny little, microscopic muscle fibers tear, and then they come back and rebuild stronger. And so that's how I view those type of fearful situations, as long as, again, it's not life threatening, but sometimes it feels like that, right? Like getting up on a stage, like my heartbeat was definitely going. But yeah, I think there's definitely beneficial parts to it too. It helps us realize what's most important to us.
Yeah, I agree. An important part of the human experience.
Yeah, God, how boring would life be if we were never, ever, ever afraid? I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I mean, horror movies, look at how popular horror movies are. Clearly we like it to some extent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. My son and I go mountain biking.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, we have some really amazing trails here for
Yeah.
Ontario. Like, we're not in the mountains.
Yeah.
We have some amazing trails, and his level of mountain biking is vastly different than mine. Because to go where he goes and go off the drops he goes off of, fear. Nope, not going
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is that like instantaneous weighing, like, is this worth injury to life and limb for the thrill of what I'm going to get? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And I feel like the older I'm getting, the more it's not. So yeah.
Yeah, that could be it too, right? I just don't want to wreck my body at this point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, definitely.
Could be.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you want people to take away from this? It's such a huge topic. We could go on, but
yeah, gosh. I feel like fear motivates so much of what we do. So many of the choices that we make and the actions that we take. And so even, I wouldn't expect people to, and I myself am not a daredevil, believe it or not. I really am not. I take measured risks, but I'm not, jumping off mountains in those weird bat suits or anything like that. So I have gone bungee jumping, but I did a lot of research into that before I did it. But anyway, back to the point. I think that thinking about like when we do feel that fear, and I think we all recognize the sensations of our body manifesting fear, or recognizing fear and it being a physical manifestation. And so when that happens, I think just noticing it, and if you can, taking a pause just to think about, like, why am I feeling this way? What is it about this situation or this choice or, this person or any of those things that's causing me to feel this way? Or why do I think that's coming up for me? So that there's learning hopefully in it. I think our bodies hold so much intelligence that we're still learning about, and being able to, use that intelligence in ways that maybe we haven't been able to in the past. There's a great book called The Body Keeps Score, and it recognizes that, like, at a cellular level, these experiences, and some people have posited that for generations these things are physically passed down through birth, to in our chromosomes and all that deep biological stuff, that we're carrying a lot of things that we might not recognize. And so I think just even being able to take some time to pause and reflect on that, and consider, okay, what might this be? What might this fear be telling me or trying to tell me about the situation or this choice or all those things? And if you have the luxury of having the time to reflect on that and to examine it, then there might be some learning there and some guidance that you tap into as well inside of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so important. especially in corporate cultures
Yeah.
where it's like that feeling stuff that like that's not real.
Oh gosh. Yeah, and unfortunately, it's so odd, because we're not. I always joke we're not robots yet in the workforce. We're still human beings bringing all of our stuff to a workplace, and I don't see that as a disadvantage. I feel like the workplace is evolving, and people are recognizing that as human beings, there are some amazing, wonderful things that we bring to the workplace, and there are some things that we bring because we're human beings and we're imperfect, and we deal with stuff. But that's okay because there are wonderful things about human beings that are changing the world and creating things and all of that. So why not recognize that human part of us at work so that we can work together and support each other to collectively be able to do better work together, but recognize that we're not robots that can just show up, do a bunch of work and go home. Like, we're bringing a lot of stuff with us into the workplace, whether that's on Zoom or in an office.
Yeah.
And we take a lot of that back home to our own personal lives. So I think even just recognizing it and being honest about it can hopefully open up some more conversations about how we can all help each other do better.
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, Loree, if people are interested, if they want to find you, I'll put up your website, but how else can they find you?
Oh gosh, I'm on all the social medias. So Loree Draube at Twitter. I'm on Instagram, and it's super easy, Loree Draube. So straightforward. I haven't met anybody else with my name spelling, so I was able to nab all of those handles. Yeah, and then definitely my website. So there is a way to contact me through that, and I'm always, interested in helping to support people. I feel so lucky that in my own coaching journey and my own journey as a leader, through 10 years in the Navy and then 20 years in Silicon Valley, that I feel like I've learned a lot that I love to share with teams and with leaders as well, and help support them either through coaching or through teamwork. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with more people about that.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Just
Thanks for having me on.
Cut out of here, can we have a geek kind of moment?
Of course. A geek? Did you say a geek moment?
Geek. Yeah, like let's
oh my God.
Geek out for a moment.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was your favorite scene in Maverick? Because I know you were a fan.
Oh my gosh. Well, how can I choose a favorite scene, Mike? That's so tough. There's so many good ones. Oh my gosh. Boy,
well, you think, can I give you mine?
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah,
yes.
when Maverick proved it can be done and did it in 2:15.
Yes.
Right, like here we are talking about fear and pushing through stuff, and right, he pushed through some stuff.
Yeah.
To do that. Yeah, it's a movie, it's fictional, blah blah blah. It's still my favorite scene.
That's awesome. No, it's great. Again, it's tough sometimes for me with the Top Gun movies to, to kind of step back up and just be like, okay, this is entertainment. Like, this is not real, Loree. So, gosh, man, I think one of my favorite parts was how Maverick went in and, after the big bombing run, Rooster was in danger. Maverick went in and basically sacrificed himself to get Rooster out of that situation. Mm-hmm. Because that to me speaks of the ethos and the camaraderie that's in the military that is so special. Mm-hmm. And that transcends, race, gender, age, so many things, like people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for their country. And for each other, really. That was one of the things that I most appreciated about being in the military. So that scene in the movie, definitely hit me right here. So yeah.
And then Rooster turned it around. So
I know. Yeah, that was. Oh my God. I know. Oh God, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it again.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
So anybody who's watching, and somebody's here right now, we're about to end this. The recording will be live shortly on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for watching us. Please, please comment any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to build on. Put it in the comments. Loree and I will see it, and one of us will respond to it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Loree.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome, Mike. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. And coming up next week on Tuesday, September 20th at 10 a.m., my good friend Sarah Bianchi will be on to talk about the importance of rest. She has a program she's been studying, and it has to do with rest. And I think it's going to be a really good conversation, like they all have been. All right. Thanks, Loree.
You're welcome, Mike. Take care.